Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of AngularAir. I am your host, Justin, and on today's episode, we are going to be checking out StackBlitz. We had an episode, we were just discussing how long ago it was that we had this episode. It might have been like 3 years ago that we talked about StackBlitz, but we're going to get some updates on StackBlitz. So StackBlitz has many things, but there might be the thing that's out there for StackBlitz. So we might be diving into that. We're going to find out. Let's say hi to our panelists, and then we'll meet our guests, and then we'll get into the content. Joining us today, we've got Alyssa. Alyssa, what's going on?
Oh, it's so good to be here. Excited for the show.
Nice. I like that you're still carrying over the hearts in the background.
Yeah, I figure it's still February, so I'm okay. I think that's how it works.
Yeah. For sure. Is your Christmas tree back on the side over there too? All right. Just check it. Because mine's still out in the living room.
Oh, okay. I thought that was like some intense judgment, and I was like, we're just
no. I didn't know if I was the only one or not. Right? We still have lights on the street. Yeah, it's crazy over here. Mike, what's going on, Mike?
Not too much. I'm not repping any holidays over here. Every day's a holiday. Not too much. Just ready to hang out to chat. I did do some checking. It has been 3 years. You have not been fed false information.
Are you kidding me?
All right.
So we need to increase that cadence.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah. Well, a monthly Eric and Dominic show. Yeah.
Mike, do you have any updates for us? What's going on in the world of Mike?
I got poked in the arm today. I got my
Picture it didn't happen.
Huh?
We need proof. Picture it didn't happen.
All right.
I got an activated sticker.
Super fancy.
All right.
That's a flex. That's a literal flex right there. Just
Right.
No flexing.
Look at my muscle. Look at the guns.
Hey, how come your daughters didn't put like a Hello Kitty Band-Aid on there? I mean, I always had like the Diego or Band-Aids on me.
I haven't had the chance yet, but maybe if that one gets swapped out at home, that's what it'll become.
Keep us posted.
There you go.
Band-Aid.
Bonnie, Bonnie, what's going on, Bonnie?
Oh, happy Friday. It's like almost the end of the day here. So I'm on the downhill side of my week. I'm very excited to see these two yahoos. Yeah. Very excited to be here. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. And those two joining us, Eric and Dominic, are back again. How's it going, fellas?
it's going well. Dom's really the Yahoo. He's the Yahoo.
The Yahoo.
You know.
I don't think
is.
so. But
He's a hoot.
happy to be here. I mean,
I'm
cool.
happy to be here as well. Thank you for having us. It's good to be back. It has been way too long. It's good to chat with all of you.
For sure. Well, what have you been up to, both of you?
Chilling. Not too much.
Chilling, working out.
What are you working on?
Me? Well, Eric's gonna show.
Yeah.
We have a thing.
We got a thing. We got a couple of things. And so and I was kind of joking when I said just chilling, because that is totally not that is the opposite of what's actually going on. So like we're actually at a kind of an inflection point in the company where Dom has been working on this thing for the past couple of years. That's literally like, I think Dom, it's been 2 years since first commit, right? At least.
Dom,
Yep.
is this the thing
I
that
think
you
so.
weren't allowed to tell us about when we saw you last month on Angular Nation? This is
Yeah,
the thing?
I wanted to leave that up to Eric. Yeah, I wanted to leave that up to Eric because he has the power to share those things
You're going to share
with
it,
the community.
Right?
Oh yeah, we're gonna share it. So yeah, and the thing the reason we couldn't really talk about it yet is because we hadn't fully filed the patents on the thing. So now we're actually fully filed. So now this is actually, I think, going to be the first public disclosure now that we have the patents on the thing.
I think with patents, we've gone from the thing to the thing.
With a capital T.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then on the flip side of it, since the last time we were here, when we it must have been when we were on AngularAir last. It was either myself, I think it was probably Albert and I.
Yes.
She's the co-founder of the company, the CTO. And it was just Albert. Like, that was the company. You were talking to all of StackBlitz Inc. at that point, right? So the company's grown a lot. We're at 9 people now. We're going to be probably expanding to probably about a dozen people within the next couple months here. And so kind of
I remember Albert because he did all the talking and you could barely get a word in edgewise.
I was like, really? That doesn't sound, oh, she's messing with me. Oh, she's messing with me. I mean, that's like part of my job is I'm as CEO, I'm basically just the company hype man, you know? So like my job is just to be like, is everyone stoked today? Yeah, let's get it. You know, like that's, you know, I really don't do a lot of hard work. You know, it's just, I'm just going from Zoom call to Zoom call and just bringing the energy.
You're doing great.
So is everyone remote? Do you have a headquarters? What's the office like?
Yeah, so we actually started with an office, like it was Albert and I mean, because back, you know, in the 2010 era of startups, you know, the common the common advice, right, when you're starting a company is everyone's got to be in office, like that's just the way things are done, blah, blah. And so Albert and I actually did a couple of startups that were like that, and there's definitely a lot of benefits to it. But what ended up happening with StackBlitz, so this is back 2017, this is like before the pandemic, before remote was cool, right? We were, you know, we basically, we were like, man, we need some help. We need to bring on some people, but all the people in the Bay Area are going to charge us. Like, you know, it's just like the price, you have to compete with Google and Facebook and the salaries they pay here, which is just insane. Like there's no way. We were a bootstrap company at the time. So we put out a tweet. We're like, you know, maybe there's people in the community that would just be down to work on this and would love this as much as we do. And that's actually how I met Dom. Was that Dom and Tomek we put out a tweet and said, hey, we could really, you know, we were looking to bring some people on, et cetera. And so Dom and Tomek contacted us, and you know, we were just incredibly lucky that you know, the Angular community, right, actually just had some great people in it that really wanted to be a part of what we were doing. But obviously Dom is in Germany, Dom brought Quentin in, but Tomek is in Poland. And so at the time, Albert and I were living together, and then we would go to an office that we had got in San Francisco because thought we were going to hire people in the Bay Area. And we were going from here to there together and then back home again. And I was like, you know, this doesn't make any sense, right? Like we're kind of, our folks are remote. And so I actually don't think that if we're going to do this right, we got to stop. There's no reason for an office, but two, you and I actually kind of have to be remote from each other. And so I actually ended up moving into a different apartment with my fiance, and that's like I've got an office, and the room I used to live in is Albert's office now, at his apartment. So anyway, so that's the long story of basically like, you know, we were like, we're going to be a remote first company, so like when the pandemic hit, we were actually, you know, I don't know, Dom, I feel like the day-to-day didn't change, you know, much at all because we were designed around those constraints already, right? So.
Gosh, I cannot believe it. 9 going to 12. That's incredible. Congratulations, you guys. That's awesome.
Thanks. I mean, it's you know, we're even at 12, we're gonna be incredibly understaffed. You know, like
wow.
You know, I was doing the math the other day of like the number of developers per month that each of our people are effectively servicing, right? It's like every person at the company is responsible for, you know, somewhere between 300,000 and 500,000 people, right? To make sure that everything's working. So it's like, that's, you know, and on the flip side, we actually have a business now too. So we actually sell stuff to enterprise companies. So it's like, you know, companies who like, for example, like one of the most common cases is companies that have design systems. They're really taking off. And so they have like common component libraries, but they have a team of like 12 people who work on the library or less actually, right? And they have to maintain this and do bug reproductions and fixes for like a couple thousand people, right? So and that's where something where StackBlitz comes in really handy is having links you can just open instantly. And especially when everyone's remote, be able to send a link that says, here's a live reproduction of exactly what is going wrong. You can debug. And so last year we actually shipped the first version ever of StackBlitz Enterprise, and this is running at, you know, some very large companies that we've got case studies coming out hopefully soon on, but like Fortune 50 sort of stuff. And, you know, so we actually have a way where we're like, cool, we can do this forever, right? Like, you know, we can provide value to businesses that'll pay us money and they're, you know, way more efficient and you know, these engineers are able to do their jobs way more effectively because they're not just getting slogged with bug reports and people are more easily able to learn the design system, et cetera. So that's actually been a huge thing that's changed at the company over the past couple of years since we chatted with you all. I have not talked about the thing yet, but like that's to kind of set the stage. Like that's kind of where
we didn't forget.
I will say StackBlitz Enterprise is like, it's kind of a thing on its own, actually, because it's been, you know, it kind of ties in, right, where, I mean, for those who are not familiar, who didn't see the kind of the first episode, right, from the beginning, StackBlitz has always been about using your browser, leveraging your browser to do really, really fast web development, right? Like making it the fastest environment on the planet for you to get in, get an environment running faster than it ever could on local, make some changes, see what happens, send the link to someone, highly collaborative environment, right? And in the first version of StackBlitz, when you go to StackBlitz today, what you see is we have essentially this kind of custom version of Webpack we built that's designed to run in a browser and et cetera, boots up in seconds and whatever have you. And so what's great about this for enterprises is that because if you compare this to something like GitHub Codespaces, they have to do all this work on a server. And like when you boot up the thing, it's not booting in a browser, it's spinning up a real server, which costs money and is actually a huge security threat because you have a server inside of your VPN that's installing arbitrary stuff that could have a daemon install in it, start ripping through your network and doing God knows what. Whereas with StackBlitz, when you open up anything, it's actually running the most secure environment on the planet, which is the Google Chrome security sandbox. So this is actually more secure than even your local environment, right? And it's way faster than your local environment, and it's way more shareable than your local environment, right? So we've actually found that for enterprise companies, this has been like, what we kind of built from day one is like actually really solves a lot of their concerns in a way that, obviously benefits everyone who goes to StackBlitz.com. But for, when you're a company that's responsible for literally trillions of dollars of transaction volume, right? Like it matters that your stuff is secure. So anyway, I'll stop talking about enterprise, but just to kind of give you an idea of like the things that matter here, and kind of what we've discovered and how StackBlitz has evolved. It's been kind of an interesting thing over the past couple of years.
It's really cool to take that nostalgic journey, right, of remembering when StackBlitz just first came on the scene, right? And it's like, boom, here's this, another one of these options that I can't even remember the other ones that are now in play back then, right? Because it's like StackBlitz became just the de facto, at least in my world, right? And to know like, okay, online code editor comes into play, StackBlitz, really cool. And then to learn like right off the bat, like you talk about, the infrastructure and the technology that you put into place from the very beginning. When we had our show and got to dive into that and learn more about that was really fascinating. And then it's really cool to hear this journey that those decisions you made early on to implant that technology now has opened the door and leverage all this stuff for you of where you're at right now, which is awesome.
And to add on to that, if I remember correctly, you were using a tool, if I remember the name Turbo?
Yes.
And then you not only worked on that and developed it to support what you were doing, but you open sourced that too, correct?
Yeah, we open sourced a lot of the core pieces of that, and that's actually there's a V2 of Turbo that Dom has built that's related to the thing.
The thing. The hype. He's got to build the hype.
The hype is real. The hype is real. I promise you. It'll probably be obvious, right? So this is literally like the first time that we're actually like showing this thing kind of in a public fashion. And so to kind of explain what we're going to show you / why we went down this journey of multiple years to do this. So like I mentioned on StackBlitz today, it's an instant environment. It's got this like kind of custom version of Webpack that boots fast. But the problem, right, is that it's not actually running the local Angular CLI that you would use on your local machine, right? And so you don't have a terminal. You can't type ng build, like run a production build. You can't ng generate this thing. You can't install arbitrary schematics and run them, right? You don't have like an operating system or a container that you can actually run, right? So a couple of years ago, we had launched this stuff onto production. We had a lot of we built up a lot of knowledge of how you make stuff work in a browser, and we had the realization like with WebAssembly being here now, it should be theoretically possible, right, to like kind of build a very like a micro operating system, right, that would run in a browser. You could probably get less than even a megabyte in size, right, like a very purpose built, very fast operating system that boots in maybe a couple hundred milliseconds, and actually mount Node.js itself on top of that, right? So you can actually run your entire operating system in a browser tab. So when you open the page, within a couple hundred milliseconds, you actually have an operating system that is running within the Chrome security sandbox, right, that cannot break out to the rest of your machine. And if something goes wrong with that operating system, you refresh the page, and it completely rebuilds that container from the ground up within a couple hundred milliseconds on page load, right? And so the benefits that you would get of this approach, should it be theoretically possible to do, is that one, you can install any Node.js CLI and run it in a browser, right? Anything. Doesn't have to be an Angular CLI. You can run Nest.js for a backend API, right? You can run arbitrary commands in your command line. You can do ls, cd, npm run start, whatever, right? You can do all of that stuff, right? And the other thing, it's entirely portable. You can throw your laptop in an ocean and pick up another one. And that container, anywhere you have a Chrome, Chrome browser, or any browser for that matter, you can have your environment truly anywhere. Of course, the other benefit of this is that doing it in the browser makes it incredibly fast. There's no latency. If you guys ever tried to use code spaces, right, like GitHub's probably, or any of these other server-based things, when you want to actually have a command line, et cetera, it takes minutes to just get the container to boot up. And on top of that, code spaces charges you by the minute to use the product and by the month for how much storage the container takes that you're using. And so when you compare that against local, using these online things are actually kind of worse in every way. You have to pay, even if you have the best machine in the world, you still have to pay GitHub money to use their thing every month, right? It does not work offline. So if your internet is crappy, which we're kind of finding out with the pandemic, right? Comcast kind of sucks, right? Like, and your stuff goes down, network blips happen, right? That's just the reality of it. It's a heck of a lot faster. But because if you're able to do this in a browser, you don't have to pay the overhead of having processes, the multi-process overhead you do with a traditional operating system, right? Because the browser is already designed with, like, in the Chrome equivalent is isolates, right? V8 isolates allow you to have very fast context switching in a very secure way. And this is like what Cloudflare uses for this stuff. So that's the short of it. So a couple of years ago, Dom, I think, Dom, this might have been the first thing you actually started working on at the company, as I recall, if now I think about it.
Yeah, that's the first thing I ever worked on at StackBlitz. It's like literally the first thing. It's, I joined the company and it's like, yep, this is the thing. Make it work.
Yep. Wow. Kind of incredible. And this is what Dom has really been driving, right, at the company since then. We're now at a point where this stuff really works. And, over the next, this coming month here, this is going to be rolling out into production behind a feature flag. And we're going to be testing it out. But I guess I could talk about it more, but maybe it just makes sense to like show you a demo of the thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
that sounds amazing.
Also, does it have a name?
Yes. It's the name of this technology is called Web Container. So it is called, like, when you are mounting this thing and you are mounting a web container in your browser, right? So you can kind of think of like as Docker containers that are designed to run inside of a web browser natively, essentially. Let me go ahead. I'm gonna. So I think Schwarty, I think my cue to say is I'm ready to share my screen.
Sounds good. I'm ready to start it, but I don't see it yet.
Okay.
As soon as I see it, there it is. Okay.
Boom. Okay.
Ready?
Let me know when I'm ready to rock and roll here.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
There you go.
So, couple of things. The Chrome team has been we've been kind of working with a handful of the folks over on that end to help make this experience pretty awesome. And so one of the things, obviously, that they've been shipping is desktop PWAs, right? And so I'll show you kind of what this looks like. So just like I would open VS Code, I should open StackBlitz, right? This desktop PWA shows up, okay? And so I'm going to go ahead and this is the Angular CLI. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And what you're seeing here is real. This is all happening in my browser. It's doing a full npm install of the Angular CLI, and it finished in less than 5 seconds, the entire Angular CLI, right? The entire Angular CLI. On local, this takes 30, 40. Dom, you know the numbers. It's like 30 or 40 seconds, right?
25 seconds at least.
Okay. Yeah. I overshot a little bit, but nonetheless, right? So you can see Angular CLI is booting up, right? And it's finishing up making the bundles, etc. And boom, we see a live Angular CLI app happening right here, right? And this is, again, this is the first in-browser operating system that has ever been able to actually mount an entire Node.js toolchain. And we're actually able to preview it over here. I can actually, let me open up a new Chrome tab. I think I popped it over into this window, right? But you can actually see this live. So if I actually, I'll go ahead and just close. Oh no, I think I got rid of the UI there. Let me close this thing. Perfect. So let me, I'll show you, right? So we are not modifying the Angular CLI in any way. So if I open up the network tab and hit refresh, you'll see it's actually just downloading all the bundles, right, from from the Angular CLI, et cetera, and it's got the Webpack dev server hot reloading built into it, right? So if I go ahead and I go into the app folder, and let me resize this a little bit so I got some room. I go into the app component. I don't really know what's here actually, but so man, a lot of CSS in the starter project, I guess. So the thing that said, this is a really cool app. Let's change that to say AngularAir. So AngularAir, I'm gonna hit save, and you see, just like on local, right, Webpack dev server actually did pick that up and actually did restart that, right? Now you saw like there is it's doing a full page reload because the Angular CLI by default does a full page reload. But if I go ahead and kill this process, I actually don't know if this is, I don't know if our process exiting stuff is on prod, but I think there's like a -- serve HMR. Am I right? Is that the thing? Anyone? Any CLI experts here? I think it's a -- HMR. Let me try it. Let's see if it works.
Yeah.
That is
Dash
correct.
HMR.
Okay, let's do, sure, we use another port. I guess that one's, this thing booting up. This time it is booting up with it's on port 0. Interesting. Why is it on port 0? Really, port 0? It is on port 0. I didn't even know that was possible. Like I've never seen something open on port 0. That's a first for me. Okay, so now we should actually, if this works, right? So this, yeah, you can see it doesn't actually do a page reload, but this is actually running with HMR now, right? So you can actually see I killed that process. I ran it with the HMR flag and it works, right? So you can actually do all the normal things that you would do with the Angular CLI, right? I guess I'll just stop there. What do you think?
Yeah, Eric, I missed it really quick. What is this window on the left?
This
is that
one,
a StackBlitz app? Yeah.
This is StackBlitz app. This is the desktop PWA of StackBlitz running here. So this is a web browser. This is Google Chrome. This is not an Electron app. This is Chrome. Right? So if I can actually go ahead and just go to inspect, and I can like debug this. This is same sort of deal as normal. I can actually just say open this in Chrome and just do that, right? So you can kind of get the idea. So this is just Chrome. This is just the desktop PWA version of this thing, right? I like headless mode because it feels a little more real, But what's cool about this being in desktop mode is I can actually get all the access to my key bindings. So normally in a browser, you can't do Command W or Command T or things like that. In this mode, the functional equivalent between this and VS Code is approaching 0. Because you can have all the key bindings that you would ever want because it is a standalone desktop PWA, right? You can do everything. Sorry, they're saying I'm talking too fast. I'll slow down. Everything you can tell I'm stoked about this thing, right? So you can do everything you would ever want to do, in your browser or in your development environment inside of this thing, right? So the idea is that StackBlitz has always been great for prototyping, live bug reproductions, etc. This technology kind of blows the lid off of what you can do here, because now what you're talking about is building full production grade applications, right?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So just to summarize, because you were talking about, and I understand the whole, excuse me, PWA aspect, can't talk, that we have a web browser, and inside that web browser is running a web server.
Yes.
That is hosting that, and doesn't that break kind of like the containerization from Chrome, or how is that being exposed through something that other tabs or instances can access?
Yep. So this URL, right? So this is a server, right? Except if I go here, even in the browser on my own computer, I can't actually see what's going on. Unlike localhost, you can open that URL in any browser and you'll see. Right. This is actually using service workers mapped to the Node.js API in the container. So we're actually using service workers as a way to serve HTTP servers in a browser. So it's actually using the same security protocol, right, that cross origin sites use today for security.
So you're tied, as you're working within StackBlitz with this setup, you're tied to working in the same browser.
Yes. Yep. Oh. So yeah, and then there's going to be a mode in the future where you can say, okay, I want this to be publicly available, so someone on the other side of the planet can actually be seeing my dev server as well. Kind of like it's like a tunnel. I can't remember. There's a very popular one that's used. That slips my brain right now, where you can actually expose your local host to the internet at some URL. There'll be just a toggle switch for this where that URL here will be publicly accessible, right? But yeah, that's kind of the idea here is that from a security perspective, again, far more secure than your actual local environment, because there's actually a lot of attack vectors that are used for pulling out cookies and other data from localhost URLs. If you just visit a browser and they iframe the localhost URL or et cetera, or if they install something on your computer, they can actually pull down data from your development lifecycle that could be misused. With this, you actually get a stronger security guarantee just from that angle, that you, even on my own local machine, if I curl this URL, I'm not actually going to see this result. It's only accessible within my Chrome, this running instance of Chrome Security Sandbox.
So awesome. It's so awesome. Can we unpack a little bit of this? Because I think there's a couple things going on here, right, that I think that we all can get a lot of value out of. First, I want to go back to you opening that StackBlitz in a browser tab, right? Because that's really, I think, where the power is, the fact that like what you're working on here is you're hitting that StackBlitz editor, right, in a browser, but then in the browser window is where all this work is happening, right? Like talking about.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So really right here is this operating system, right? Hitting this URL, you have this operating system loading up into your browser tab right here, right?
And so, yeah, exactly. So I'll hit refresh to kind of walk you through it. So the second you see this going, the operating system is booted, and now we're just doing the npm install. Like the operating system, literally that fast, right? So let's time it. So, all right, one Mississippi, there you go. So like I couldn't even get to the end of it, right? Like that's how fast this thing can boot in a browser, right? And this is all really due to the advent of WebAssembly, being able to actually have to create primitives that allow you to do this, right? And even things like service workers, this wouldn't have been possible for us to build 4 years ago when we started the company. This is only something that we could have done darn near when Dom put in the first commit, right? And even then, there's been things that have come out that have further enabled this and made this as fast as it could be today, right? So this is truly at the bleeding edge of what is possible to do in a browser, right? Like this might be one of the most sophisticated, pieces of technology as far as like in running inside of a browser engine, right? Like this is, and if you when you talk to people who kind of built stuff for platforms before, the two, if you want to know how powerful a platform really is, the two major stress tests are one, video games, because they max out, like you're creating virtual environments, right? They max out kind of the capabilities. And we actually see a lot of video games starting to move into browsers now, right? The second thing is IDEs, because you're talking about the platform being powerful enough to create stuff for the platform itself, right? And so what this is actually kind of a story 30 years in the making from the conception of a web browser period, is that we've actually never, if you think about it, right, web development has never been able to actually be done using the browser itself from a technical standpoint. Maybe in the early days if there's a little HTML text area editor, but with modern web development, right, it's always I'm using some other environment to build the thing, and the browser is just a target for me to throw that application to and deploy it to. We've never actually been able to close the loop on, like imagine Mac OS without Xcode. If you had to use, a gigantic mainframe to write iPhone apps, or Mac apps, right? That's kind of the equivalent of what we've been doing in a sense for the web. And so this is a kind of a big moment for the web itself, is like the web has become powerful enough as a platform to support one of the most extreme use cases,
Absolutely. And that's the evolution we talk about web and thinking about web apps, right? That we've gone that journey of thinking about creating web apps, and the browser is the OS, right? And now we're to a point where you're revealing that the browser can now have its OS and still run those different apps, right? And so it's that next level, yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
So you mentioned the term or name of web container. Is web container as a name, is that a StackBlitz thing? Is that a Chrome thing? Is that what is a web container? What's the scope of that definite or term?
Yeah, good question. So that is a StackBlitz thing, and it's a StackBlitz thing that deeply relies on web standard things and Chrome things and et cetera. But yeah, so the web container is kind of it's kind of equivalent to like what Docker is to containers in a sense, is that it's our kind of formal glue together specification of how you create a kind of mountable environments that can run in browsers on top of WebAssembly and et cetera.
Cool. I'm going to ask a little bit about your demo that you've got going on there with that terminal.
Yeah.
If you were to kill that process, because you ran a different thing, are you able to run other CLI commands or install other things into that environment?
Yeah. Give me a command. So give me like a generator command or something like
Create
that.
a new component. ng generate c.
Yeah. NG
Air.
Wait. Speak slowly. 50%.
ng generate space c space and then ng-air. Yeah.
I did it. Oh.
Yeah. So if I ls, so then the source folder, right?
Oh my gosh, this is so cool.
And that's not just blow over the fact that like it not only did it like instantly.
Yeah.
Like when I generate a component on my local environment, it takes a little bit before the
Did you see how fast that was? That was instant.
Yeah.
That was less than a second.
I don't believe it did anything. I mean, it was too fast.
I know. Show the file.
There you
Show
go.
the file.
Eric, do you remember the question I asked you when you first came here the very first time you showed us StackBlitz?
No.
Do your parents know how awesome you are? I'm assuming by now they do.
I don't know. Hopefully they'll I think they'll dig. My dad's an engineer, so he I think he kind of gets what we're up to, and my mom's a fan of I would say just of what we do generally, and but and this is also, I think, Dom, I gotta imagine it's got to feel pretty good, right, to see other humans outside the company seeing this thing for the first time in 2 years, right?
Oh my god.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I really don't know what to say. Like, I didn't expect that we were gonna show this like on the show, but it's like I'm mind blown myself. I'm really speechless.
So
Tomek is
it's
in
amazing.
the chat, and he's also very impressed with you.
So the other thing that
No. Tomek is part of the team. He's amazing.
I know.
Like, he's done so much work.
saying.
So kudos to the entire team, by the way. That's huge.
Yeah, because and Dom hit a point where this has been such a monumental task. Where Dom back must have been a year and a half ago, he was like, we need to pull some other people in to really help drive the technology aspect even of this forward. And he Dom had worked with this awesome guy named Quentin, and Dom and Quentin have done just an incredible job pulling this technology together, kind of in concert with obviously the other people on the team here. Obviously Albert is an amazing CTO, and obviously that kind of shows here, right? And
these are the best people you can work for.
These
period.
You can work with, right? Like this, we've got a really just unbelievable team of people that care deeply about this and are not afraid to go and put themselves out there, right? And not afraid to fail. And so Dom and Quentin have done an amazing job. Tomek is just the person driving all of our platform UI and UX stuff forward, and all the UI you see here has been from Tomek. We've got some great people who've joined, like Sam, who's a friend of Dom's and Quentin's, and we have a designer named Florenz and a great fellow who's working on the Kubernetes DevOps side named Adam. So we've got an amazing crew of people here that are really making this happen. And so it may look simple because you probably see terminals on your local machine or on code spaces or whatever every day. But like, if you really think about what does it take to build everything that makes a terminal work from the ground up, I mean, you have to invent a new type of operating system. You have to invent a new type of way that you have shell commands executing in an operating system. You have to invent a new type of compiler to make different languages like runtimes like Node.js work on top of this operating. And we had to invent our own package manager. So coming back to Turbo, right? What you're seeing here is actually the first package manager that resolves this ridiculous security hole I wasn't even aware of in NPM. I can't remember. I can find the CVE of the exact number, but essentially NPM's got this terrible worm in it that allows you, when you install stuff, it can, your post-install scripts can execute and do whatever they want to your machine. And so the worm basically goes like this, where you install a package to your computer, the exploit executes on post install, and that exploit goes and sees what npm packages you publicly have pushed to the registry. It re-releases versions that are minors with the worm in them to the registry, and then the next person downloads that repeat cycle, right? And so this is actually the first npm client that addresses that by not by default running post-install scripts, right? And we've also done an incredible amount of work to make this a ridiculously fast experience. So you see like a 5x faster speed improvement, and it also resolves this incredible security hole that's been present in npm for like 4 years. That Sam Saccone, I think that's his name from Google, he was the one who actually found this vulnerability, and it's just kind of wild, right? So when you talk about enterprise companies, there are no npm clients that resolve this today, right? So we're at, and this is getting a little beyond, I guess, the thing, but like, we have full intention of bringing Turbo and bringing it to local, right? So that if you are using a local environment, your installs are going to be 5 times faster, and you're not going to have the security risk of a worm infecting your machine and the rest of your company, right? So there's just a lot of what you see here, all the layers to this. There's a lot of the innovations that you're seeing here are actually going to start spiraling out throughout the course of this year, and actually hitting you in your local environment and impacting your ability to do secure, fast web development there, and other places. So there's a lot of cool stuff in this thing that I guess we are talking about it for an hour here.
You haven't said hello, my friend.
So anyway, so that's I can stop screen sharing now, unless you all want to see some more demos or whatever have you.
Yeah, leave that.
Yeah, leave it up.
I have a few quick questions.
Okay, all right. I'll leave it going.
So I am going to have another command for you to run, but I want to talk real quick about the synchronization. So you talked about throwing your laptop in the ocean.
Yes.
Kids, don't throw your laptops in the ocean. How is this also then? Is it still also being synchronized back up to the client, or excuse me, to the server, so that we could then go get different versions from different sources or different machines? I guess is a better way of saying that.
Yeah. So when you up to like the StackBlitz server, you're kind of like thinking like Git or something like that.
Yeah. So you generated a component. If you were to open this up on a different machine, or I were to open up your StackBlitz there, that I would see that new component that was generated.
Yeah, so we're gonna have the ability for real-time multiplayer some point later this year, where you can do like the real-time collaborative stuff. We're very focused on kind of almost the single player, because like I guess what we've seen a lot, right, is most people do want to kind of develop on their own, right? Like the real-time collaborative stuff is useful kind of in a pinch where you're like, hey, can we punch in and like hammer out this problem together? But a lot of what we've seen during the pandemic is async is actually kind of the more common way of doing this, where it's like, hey, I just pushed to this branch, can you take a look at it, right? And so what StackBlitz kind of gives you is instead of having to clone the branch locally to review a PR or whatever have you, we're the first order of business we're trying to really address is making sure that you can open up any PR and it just instantly is executing in StackBlitz. You can review it, et cetera. So you never have to if someone pushes a branch, you want to check it out. You don't have to check it out locally. Whatever you're working on, you don't have to mess with your environment locally. You quickly open it, boots in a couple of seconds, bada bing, bada boom, right? Definitely the next step is going to be the real-time aspect of like, hey, I want to collaboratively kind of be working with you in this. And as I run ng, generate commands, that's popping in. I can actually see the files popping up in the sidebar, and in the operating system itself, I can be LSing them or whatever have you, right?
Yeah. The other question is inside the terminal. I know you're not restricted to only node commands because you ran ls and what have you to be able to show that, even cat to be able to show the component here. Are there any restrictions for what's available from a terminal? Is like the subset of commands that you can run, is that pulled from a particular terminal or shell?
Yeah. So we've had to kind of invent our own thing, because most a lot of the stuff was invented in the 70s and has been kind of relying on the same stuff since then. So it wasn't really designed to run in WebAssembly, unfortunately. So we've had to, our job on the operating system side of this is to have more or less full POSIX compatibility as much as it can theoretically be possible, right? But we essentially kind of target, having the same POSIX surfaces that you would have in Linux and that sort of thing.
Fair enough.
So I want to unpack this a little further too, to kind of keep going on this feeling of kind of get an understanding of what's going on, right? So we've got this URL that we're hitting, right? This is the operating system that's running it. Now you were able to serve up something, and you're talking about the ability to then open another browser on our local machine that is hitting that content that you just served from this operating system, right?
Say that one more time. So
when you ng serve this, right, in this terminal right here, so you got your operating system running here in this browser tab, and you're ng serving from that in this operating system is spinning up a web server, right, to host that ng serve content. And then you're able to open another browser tab on your local machine and hit that served up server, right?
Absolutely. As long as it's in the same browser.
It has to be the same Chrome instance.
Yep. So
because you're using web workers to communicate between those tabs.
Our service. So we have a service worker that we've done a lot of crazy stuff to turn it into a agnostic server. And it it maps to the Node.js server APIs that are running under the hood there, or like the actually at a kind of a lower level, right? Of like how we have like a TCP implementation that maps to it or whatever have you, right? But yeah, that's more or less, that's exactly what you're describing is absolutely like on the money, right? And so I can actually show you maybe another demo here that it adds a little more context to this. So let me go ahead and pop open. I think I've got like let me search for this node server. Oh, do I not have that anymore? Okay, well, actually, I'm going to show you. Okay, I wasn't planning on showing this, but because I don't have this on hand, I guess I'll just do the thing. I'll do the thing with the thing.
We love the thing.
Okay, so this is
all the things.
All right, so this is okay. This is where it gets kind of crazy. So just kind of buckle up for this because this might be a little bit of a mind trip. Okay, so
wait, hold on. I'm ready.
So this is one of the things that the Chrome team, there's the Fugu team over at Google, that what's been going on with the web. The web has been it's the most amazing application delivery platform ever, right? And so back in 2011, Ryan Dahl, right? That's his name, the guy who made Node. He pulled V8 out of Chrome, brought it to local so we could have Node.js, right? But like that's, he had to kind of like fork Chrome almost to like bring this to local. Electron was invented, which is a literal fork of Chrome that lets you install a version of Chrome with your web app, right, on local. So Google has been working on, okay, how do we like make PWAs powerful enough where you don't have to use Electron anymore? Because it doesn't make sense to have like a version of Chrome for VS Code and a version of Chrome for Slack and a version of Chrome for blah, 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 right? So one of the key APIs we've been waiting on is the native file system API. So you can actually have read and write access to a piece of your of your file system in your operating system from a web application. That API is now shipped, okay? So you kind of think about it, right? We've got an operating system in a browser with an editor, and that browser can now have read and write access to your local file system, okay? And so to kind of give you the, let me go ahead and open up my terminal, and I'll go to my desktop folder because I think that's where this is. I'll cd Node.js server. So I'm going to open this up in like VS Code, right? This is my VS Code editor. This is the file, okay, that is in this folder here, right? So this is this thing. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open the same thing up using the Chrome file system API. So where's that thing? Node.js server. I'm going to open up this folder. I'm going to grant this thing access. And you can see I actually now have, I need to delete this thing because that thing doesn't need to be there. Oh, like I said, I can't delete it. This is alpha software. Don't hate me for this, okay? So if I need to grant myself save permissions. And so now if I actually go over here and type hello.
Eric, remove the toolbar, see.
I can't. It won't go away.
Oh, it won't go away. All right. Never mind. Yeah. You can keep it. It's fine.
Yep. So if I type hello AngularAir and I come back here, you actually see it pops into the editor, right? And if I go back here and I type in, hello Dom, and I get rid of this extra space and go back here, you can actually see, and let me close this up a little bit so you can kind of get the idea. So again, over here, I'm going to type some gibberish, and it shows up. We have two-way syncing. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna have this say AngularAir. Okay, I'm editing this using VS Code, Okay, shows up here, and now I can just type node server.js. It's running, and I am running this arbitrary Node.js server in my browser right now, right? You can go ahead and open this up. You can see this running, right? So I can have full access, right, to my local file system, get synced right in, don't have to do anything, like magic, right? Running here. Let me go ahead and I think I might need to change the port because that server might not have been killed. But here's kind of where it gets even crazier, okay? So if I go ahead, I'm going to throw this debugger here. Because we are running this thing entirely in the browser, right? That means that we can actually now debug our running Node.js applications just like we would any other browser application, just like you would for any front-end app, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go ahead and just open up the console, and I'm going to type node, I'm going to go ahead and just run node server.js again. This time it's running on 80. Now what should happen here, right, is I'm going to open up the network panel so you can actually see this in action, right, is when I go to the 80, oh no, the demo didn't work. No. All right, I need to save and refresh. This should work. Give me 1 second. Okay, so let me try typing node server.
Don't worry, Eric. We'll edit that out.
Oh, I know why it didn't work. Because I actually didn't set the right. I needed to change it here and not there. Okay, so let me go here. So you see this request is hanging right now, right? And the reason is that we actually just hit the debugger for this. Okay, so you can actually see I am live debugging a Node.js server in Chrome DevTools right now, right? This application is paused in execution. And so when I hit resume, we should see this pop up over here because this request is waiting for this to go through. You see it's pending, right? So I'm going to go ahead and step through just like I normally would. Why is this thing not working? I don't know. Come on. I need to step through it again. It's still stuck. Come on, there we go. All right, boom. So yeah, so you kind of get the idea, right? So we can actually debug this live Node.js server in a browser. God darn, I wish that had worked like the first time, but you get the idea. This is totally out the first time we're showing awesome. This thing. I was not prepared to show any of this. Please forgive me. So anyways, so that's
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to bring this.
HTTP servers using raw Node. You can use Express. You can use Nest.js. The sky's the limit, right? So anyways, that's my shtick.
So awesome. I want to bring this full circle. Okay, so let me ask you a question. I'm assuming you probably have Node installed on your machine. Theoretically, could you uninstall Node right now and then this would still work? Okay, so that's the right. So that's the idea when we talk about like containers and the joy of containers is that on our local machine, we wouldn't have to have Node and we could run it in container isolated. And so I think that's how we get to your term web containers here is that's really what's happening is you're offloading all this stuff and you talk about it out of our local local OS and we're putting that into this virtual this browser OS and now we have this freedom of tossing our laptops in the ocean, right?
I mean, do you realize how even like how this changes the world for learning? Like how it changes the world for like being able to jump technologies or learn for the first time and not even needing to spend hours setting things up or downloading things or figuring out why won't it work on my machine. Like it just blows that away. Like I'm so excited.
Accessibility to everybody to learn, right?
Yes.
Just think about how hard it is to install and get these environments up and running. And it's the same as with Docker, right? It completely takes away the hassle of installing the entire environment. You would create the environment once, you have it in a browser, and you can just take that link, send it to anyone, and the entire environment is up and running within seconds.
Yeah, 100%, right? And I think, Albert and I, a while back, we were talking about this. And, I've known Albert since he and I were kids. Like, we grew up down the street from each other in Chicago. And looking back, I'm really fortunate that he was the only person I knew that knew anything about programming. And back in the mid 2000s, there was not a lot of program. Like today, there's like so many sites where you can learn to program, right? Back then, it was not like that. You had to buy books. And it was back then it was like the lamp stack. Getting set up with the lamp stack on your machine, I kind of toyed with programming a couple of times and I kind of just flamed out. What Albert being in my life gave me actually, looking back, the ability to really learn how to do this, because he was better than I was, and us together, we were able to really. I was unblocked on learning, but if I had never met Albert, I probably wouldn't be here today, right? Because I would have probably just not been able to follow through. And a big part of that, right, is getting the stuff set up on your computer, because it is the hardest part of learning how to program. And if I want to learn another language, it's still a pain for me as someone who I would say I'm like maybe mediocre at programming, right? Like I've done enough to figure out how to usually get out of my own way. But even with that, it's like getting a lot of our stuff set up. I'm still it's the worst part of my job whenever I'm doing engineering. And so I think this is the future, right? Is like, why do we have to do that, right? If we can get a browser if we can mount an operating system that is less than a megabyte with all of the stuff we need, right, to mount instantly in a couple hundred milliseconds, why would we ever want to go and download stuff that's, one, it's going to run on your local machine, you have to get it to install properly, and two, this stuff is not secure. And we're seeing a lot more security issues in the public market at this point with stuff like SolarWinds. And I mean, there's been a ton of stuff in just the past 2 months that's happened, right? And so the attackers are getting smart, and they're figuring out, oh, you know what? The way we should attack companies now is actually, we shouldn't just try, their APIs are solid, but you know what? Their devs, when they have to go in and get an environment set up or install stuff, their job is to like ship a feature, right? They don't have like the time to go, let me do a full security audit before I install this package, right? And they might not even have the requisite knowledge to really be like, wait a second, that doesn't look right. You know what I mean? Like, that's why you have a security team. So, at this point, right, security, I think over the next 5-10 years, and you see a lot of enterprises investing in this now, is like, we have to make your environments have to be secure by default. We can't do this thing anymore where it's like, oh, it's after the fact, we'll kind of patch some holes in the ship. That's not working. The attackers are coming after everyone who's watching this call. That you got a target on you. If you're working at a big company, you have a target on your back, because you are the weakest link now as far as how to get stuff backdoored into the company, right? So I think for the security reasons, for the productivity reasons, for making this a more slippery on-ramp, for people to get into programming and make sure that it's not just people who have the good fortune of having an amazing person that they live down the street from to learn how to code with can get into this stuff. And in a sense, Albert and I just are like, wow, we're building this thing for ourselves 15 years ago, right? Like that's really like, that's what we're doing. And so intuitively, this is so obvious, because it's like, yeah, I wish we didn't have to spend, I wish someone else did this, I wish someone else did this so we could go and build stuff on top of this thing, as for the, anyways, I digress. But yeah, man, it's exciting, right? Like, I love it.
And
go ahead, Tom.
No, I just wanted to say, and also how often the environments get corrupted. I mean, one of the advantages of StackBlitz is that you always get a fresh environment every single time you reload the page. And like, probably everyone knows it, but the most commonly used like bash command is probably rm/rf node modules, right? Like, everyone knows that. And so with StackBlitz, it's a reload of the page. You have a fresh, clean environment, and which installs the dependencies again within seconds.
Here, let me do a demo of what Dom's talking about. Actually, sorry, I know I stopped sharing my screen.
As you're doing that, I have a few quick questions. One, it really hurt to say when you were growing up in the mid 2000s. That one really hurt me. I will say that. My other questions are, if your UI supported having multiple terminals, more than one terminal.
Yes, we have a split term.
Okay.
You can just open up a new terminal.
So in the example of the node server, if you were to spin that up in one, you could run a curl command to access that and do it all in one browser window, correct? Yep.
Yes.
You can actually see this here. I don't know if my screen is actually getting shared right now, but so you can actually see I've got the Angular CLI here. I'm LSing. I can, what was the NGG or
C?
Yeah, NGG C.
And then AngularAir, and hit enter, and this should work. Yeah, there you go. So it actually picked up the changes right in the dev server. We have you can run multiple commands at a time, etc.
So the other question I have, it'll be real quick. You mentioned the idea of working in parallel with somebody else and sharing an environment.
Yep.
My question is more specific, because you brought up quite a few similarities between StackBlitz and VS Code. is it potentially going to integrate in with their live share feature? A StackBlitz could potentially be shared with an or like a native running IDE.
We would love to. The API surface for what they have is not public. It does not appear that they have intentions of letting folks like us integrate with it. But I think we've actually got some ideas that'll actually kind of maybe even be a better experience than some of the stuff you can do in a live share. Because being able to have an operating system that you can actually mount in kind of multiple places introduces some better experiences than having to rely on just what this person's machine is slowly piping over the internet back to me, as that sort of thing. So we've got some stuff, some research going on around that.
Okay. The last thing you said, I will bring up as my last question. Based off of the trajectory of what you've shown us 3 years ago, you've shown us today, you talked that you were actually developing this for teenage you and teenage Albert. So in 3 years, I'm expecting you to come back with a time machine. Just so you know.
That's the thing after the thing, No, totally. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. There's a lot of interesting stuff that I think will pop out of this. This is going to be, you're kind of looking at the next 5 years of the company here. And so we're pretty excited about it. And like Dom mentioned, by the way, one of the nice things about this, right? So I'm going to kill the Angular CLI server. So if I type in ng, you see it goes green there because that's a registered command, right? So if I hit enter, it'll give me this stuff, right? Now, often in your environment, how many times do you have to RF node modules, right? Because something gets wonky in your environment. So let me go ahead and just do that, right? So, node modules, all right? And then it might take a second to register. So now if, ls node modules, I should get an error. Yep, there's no directory. And if I try running ng now, there is no command, okay? So again, the beautiful thing about this is that on PageLoad, we build the container from the ground up, right, in seconds. So when I hit refresh here, what's going to happen is it's going and it's creating a fresh node modules from the ground up, right? And so it'll actually be able to go and run ng-serve. So that's a huge benefit of this environment is when if something gets screwy, you never have to arm RF node modules ever again. Just hit refresh, save your changes, hit refresh on the page, boom, right? And that to us is just an incredible selling point of this thing because, God, I hate ARM. I do that multiple times per day, at least with the right? So I'm stoked for that.
Common thing.
Yeah, such a common annoying thing. So anyway, so that's truly my bit here. So I'll go ahead and stop the share. But anyways, yeah, so that's one of the things I'm personally most excited about with this.
It's so common that I even have an alias for it because I use it so often. And I'm too lazy to always type RF.
Now you just move that to the refresh button. So the refresh button is a shortcut for that, right? There we go. So yeah, hey, kind of. All of this stuff is absolutely amazing and mind-blowing, right? And it's so cool. But I think for me, one of the most exciting things, and this really goes back to the 3 years ago, Eric, when you came on, and one of the important talking points there was this mission to provide this opportunity for everybody to program. And you just hit it here, right? So anybody from any level, from any background could have this accessibility to the tools they need to get into this industry and to get into this stuff. And now to see it 3 years from where it was then to where it is now, it's just a continuation of that journey and really bringing this power to fruition. It's amazing to see. And I love that part the most.
You guys really are helping a lot of people. The homepage is so fast and it's so inviting and it doesn't look scary. Really, it really is there are people that are just trying to, you have that immediate success, oh yeah, I can do this. And it's not it really helps a lot of people. I mean, I don't want to get mushy or anything, but it really does. It's cool. It's cool.
No, I really appreciate it. I mean, it means a lot. I mean, we the Angular community is it's been on StackBlitz today. I mean, 90 or 80% or something of our projects are Angular projects. The Angular community has been huge for us and has been so incredibly supporting and so we're just really, we're really glad that you all dig what we've worked on and have supported us. And we just really would not be here today if the Angular community had it didn't exist, honestly. So we're excited. This is the first time that we're showing it to anyone because you all are the people. You all are our people. So we're excited to show it to everyone, and we're looking for alpha testers because as you can see, we got a couple of kinks to work out. So shoot an email to me at eric@stackblitz.com. We'll get you hooked up with the alpha version of this that's going on to prod soon here, and we really appreciate everything you all do and all the support you've given us over the years. We're excited to get this in your hands.
Very cool.
When was or is the date that you're able to develop StackBlitz in StackBlitz?
Very soon. Like that's the ultimate goal, right?
What Eric's not saying is they're already doing it. They just
that's the thing 2.0.
Yeah, it's I think there's a lot of places that we're already like a lot of our kind of core UI and documentation stuff like that. Like there's kind of a mandate happening here where it's like everything that can be using StackBlitz will be using StackBlitz essentially, right? Because we're scratching our own itch in a sense. It's like like this thing. If this thing's so awesome, then we should want to use it ourselves, right? And the answer is like, yeah, of course, And so we're starting to pick it up now, and it's at a point where it's stable and really solid enough to where we can meaningfully dog food it. So
it's awesome. All right, well, we're at the top of the hour. Let's do some picks, and then we'll do a final wrap-up. How about that?
Sounds good.
Our panelists, we'll hit our panelists first. Does anybody have any picks?
I can't pick anything that'll battle what we just experienced for the last hour.
The picks don't have to, go over the thing that we talked about. It can be like a side thing, right? Or in addition to it.
My lunch was pretty good, so that's my pick.
There we go.
Nice.
I
mean, something everybody else
could
could experience would be good.
Goodness
Yes,
gracious, Bonnie.
I'm overachieving. I'm picking for everybody today. Okay, so first, right immediately after this, as soon as we leave here, we're going over to Angular Nation for the community hangout. Y'all should join us. We're bringing Dominic, and the last time we saw Dominic, he was not allowed to tell us about the thing. So now
we are. We are bringing it in?
Are you coming with us? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Second pick is GameStop and Physical Silver. Yeah. Is anybody else holding GameStop?
No.
All right. Well, I'm holding GameStop. I just like the stock. I think it's cool. I used to take my kids there when they were little, and I think it's cool. And I'm losing all my money, but I don't care.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Alyssa, did you have any picks?
No.
Or are we? Okay, you and I are using Bonnie's picks, but she picked for us. All right, our guest, do you have anything else that you want to share pick-wise or anything interesting?
Yeah, I have 2 picks. My first pick is you should check out one of our Tomek, who works on our team. He has a great Twitter account. He has lots and lots and lots of good content. So I highly recommend following him, reading his tweets, really awesome web dev tips. So check it out. Amazing. And my second pick would be the StackBlitz team. It's just it's amazing that we all built this. Huge kudos to the entire team. I just want to say that again. It's a massive team effort. So I'm really happy and glad to be part of this team. So my 2 picks.
Nice. Awesome. Eric, you want to just second that, or you have any other picks that you want to add?
Yeah, I'll second that. I mean, I think StackBlitz team, absolutely. All the people that work on StackBlitz are amazing, and follow them on Twitter and whatnot. And Tomek is actually like the tips that Dom mentioned, on our main StackBlitz account. He's really garnished an awesome following of people there. Really like useful tips, like super cool stuff that he posts there. And I think it's I guess I gotta underscore what Dom had to say there. I think that's about it for me right now, at least.
Awesome. You had to deliver a lot of stuff for us today, and we really appreciate it. Big appreciation to the whole team, especially appreciation to Eric, you, and Dom for coming on the show once again. as always, please feel free to book another time anytime you want to talk about anything more. I would love to have you on again. So let's coordinate, hopefully sooner than 3 years. That'd be awesome. But yeah, it's really amazing, and really appreciate everything both of you do and the whole team, and for taking the time to come on and share this with us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Great being here.
Absolutely. All right, that's a wrap, everyone. Take it easy. Have a good one. See you next time.